Let me tell you a story about trust, about love, marriage, and the kind of betrayal you only read about in bad novels, or apparently Reddit posts like this one. My wife is a flight attendant. Glamorous, right? That's what I thought too. Beautiful woman, tailored uniform, hair always in a neat bun, the scent of hotel shampoo and overpriced airport perfume following her home like a trail of glitter and jet fuel. We've been married for 3 years. We met fast, fell faster, and got married like two drunk idiots at a Las Vegas chapel, minus the Elvis. She said she liked that I was stable. At the time, I took it as a compliment. Turns out, that was just code for, you seem like the kind of guy who won't ask too many questions. We have a daughter together. She's 2, bright, curious, and somehow already smarter than me. I work from home in IT, which makes me the de facto diaper wrangler and snack master, while my wife flies the friendly skies. It's a routine we settled into. She's gone 3 to 4 days a week, sometimes more. International routes, layovers in cool cities I'll never see. I used to track her flights online, just to feel connected. Her little plane icon zigzagging across the world while I was cleaning up spilled applesauce. She'd come home exhausted but cheerful. She always brought little trinkets from duty-free. Mini perfumes, European chocolates, an occasional soft toy for our daughter. She called me her rock. I called her my wings. God, I was poetic back then. Our neighbors called us the modern couple. She had her career, I had my flexible job, and together we balanced parenthood like pros. People envied us. I envied us. Until one Tuesday afternoon, when her plane never took off. Want to know the funny part? I wasn't even snooping. I was just bored, waiting on a client call, and happened to open the airline's tracking app out of habit. Her flight was supposed to depart at 2:40 p.m. I checked at 3:10. Canceled. That's all it said. No delay, no reschedule, just canceled. Weird, I thought. I texted her. Hey, everything okay? Flight got canceled? Yeah, last minute change. Don't worry, we're being rerouted. Boarding now. We'll text later. Huh. Boarding? On what plane? There's no replacement flight listed. I checked the airline's main schedule. Nothing departing that day to the same destination. Hell, nothing even close. I'm not proud of what I did next. But something about her message didn't sit right. The wording, the vague, don't worry. So I clicked open Find My iPhone. We had it enabled since our daughter was born, just in case. She knew that. I knew that. It wasn't spying, it was peace of mind. Except peace wasn't what I found. She was in a suburb, not near the airport, not in any hotel, just parked. For hours. No movement, not even the kind of I'm stuck in traffic movement. Just a little gray dot, sitting perfectly still on a map, in a quiet residential area, 3 hours away. 3 hours away from our home. And I stared at that dot, feeling the first little hairline fracture in the glass of my perfect life. I zoomed in. Street names, crossroads, nothing familiar. Then I zoomed out, saw how far she was from the airport, realized she never even got on a plane. And that's when the silence in our house started screaming. At first, I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe she was helping a stranded passenger. Maybe it was a crew layover in some weird Airbnb. Maybe she got sick and didn't want to worry me. I even told myself, and this is rich, maybe she didn't want me to think she was being lazy on the job. Yeah, because clearly, protecting the illusion of constant productivity is more important than just telling your husband where you are. Still, I let it go. For about a day. The next morning, the gray dot on the map moved. But not to the airport, not to any hotel, just a grocery store. Then a little detour to a park. Then back to the same house. Same damn house. Now I was officially spiraling. I Googled the address. Middle-class suburb. Cute 2-story home with a swing set in the front yard. And no connection, none, to her job. No branch office, no layover hotel, just someone's house. So I did what any desperate idiot with a rapidly combusting marriage would do. I opened our shared cloud photo folder. Guess what I found? Nothing. Nada. Zero. Which would have been fine, except my wife always uploaded her silly airport selfies and hotel room shots. She was one of those people who takes mirror pics in uniforms and captions them with things like tired but grateful. And now? Radio silence. I messaged her. Everything all right? You seemed quiet yesterday. All good, exhausted, Wi-Fi sucks here, we'll call tomorrow, okay? Where exactly is here? Frankfurt layover, can't talk, passengers boarding. Frankfurt, that's funny, because the little gray dot I was watching was currently 3 states away, in Ohio. This is where something inside me snapped, not in an angry, dramatic, throw something at the wall kind of way, more like a quiet click. A gear slipping into a new, darker position. I stopped thinking like a husband. I started thinking like an investigator. A few days later, she came back from her layover, smiling, relaxed, acting like nothing was wrong. She kissed our daughter, hugged me, unpacked her bag full of absolutely nothing from Germany. And I played along. I smiled. I asked how Frankfurt was. She said, rainy, boring, the usual. That night, while she showered, I opened her carry-on, and I slipped in the old AirTag we'd used when our daughter kept losing her backpack, tucked it right next to her perfume, the one she wore when she traveled, but never at home, because I had a feeling that next time her plane wouldn't be going anywhere either. Then I waited. Next trip, she kissed me goodbye. Our daughter waved like she always did. I smiled like I always did. And then I watched that little dot travel, straight back to that suburb. Same house, same street, no flights, no airports, no Lufthansa, just domestic bliss in a place I'd never heard of. For 3 nights, the AirTag didn't move much. Just a cozy little domestic pattern, morning trip to a local park, midday Target run, back home before dinner, not a hotel, not a flight, a routine, one I wasn't part of. The worst moment? When the location pinged at a preschool. I watched the dot stop there for 20 minutes, then move again, slow, like walking pace, all the way back to that house. I was feeding our daughter mac and cheese while this happened. She was babbling about butterflies, and I was staring at a blinking icon on my phone, realizing my wife was probably holding hands with another kid. I don't know what broke me more, that it was a routine, or that I could picture her doing it all so damn comfortably, like this was just life, her other life, and I wasn't part of it, like she had done it 100 times before. The thing about cheating is, people expect it to look like lipstick on collars and late-night texts. But this wasn't that. This was a second life. The thing about cheating is, people expect lipstick on collars and flirty texts hidden in locked phones. But what if it's quieter? What if it's a ping on a map, at the same address again and again? A trip to the grocery store, a Target, a park, and then a preschool. I didn't see her there. I didn't see who she was with, but my brain did the math. That kind of routine doesn't happen overnight. You don't just casually pick up a backpack from a preschool for no reason. That wasn't a layover. That was something else, something that smelled like stability, like familiarity, like she belonged there. And suddenly, all the gaps started filling themselves. The missing photos, the bad Wi-Fi, the repeat addresses. I didn't have proof. Not yet. But I had instinct, and it screamed at me. She wasn't just hiding a secret. She was living in it. That Friday, she came home. Same smile, same routine. She kissed our daughter and said, "I missed you so much. Mommy had a long flight." And I just stood there pretending to believe her, because now, flight didn't mean airports and layovers anymore. It meant secrets, silence, and a second life I wasn't part of. I held out for one more trip. Part of me still clung to the hope that I was wrong. That all the dots, the lies, the preschool ping, it was some bizarre misunderstanding. Maybe a glitch, a borrowed address, a cousin she forgot to mention. I told myself all the comforting things fools tell themselves before their lives fall apart. But then she left again. Same suitcase, same perfume, same kiss on the forehead, same lie. I'll call you after the flight. Wi-Fi might be spotty. Except I didn't open the flight tracker this time. I didn't need to. I already knew exactly where that little dot would land. And it did. Same street, same house. So I made a decision. I packed a bag, dropped our daughter off at my sister's, said I had a work training out of town. My sister smiled and said, "You never get a break. Good for you." I nodded, numb. I didn't feel like a man going on a trip. I felt like a man going to witness his own funeral. It was a quiet drive, 3.5 hours of silence, broken only by the low hum of the tires and my own thoughts eating themselves alive. I didn't blast music, didn't scream. I just sat there, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from coming apart. I didn't know what I'd do when I got there. No confrontation fantasy. I just needed to see it, to know, to stop living in the blurry space between suspicion and truth. The neighborhood was painfully normal. Tree-lined streets, kids on bikes, lawns too green for fall. I parked across the street from the house, the one I'd seen on Google Maps too many times now. It looked like any other home. Beige siding, white trim, wind chimes. But to me, it was a crime scene. I waited. At first, I felt ridiculous. Sitting there in a rental car, pretending to check my phone while scanning the driveway like some amateur PI. I half expected a neighbor to knock on my window and ask if I was lost. But then the front door opened, and there she was, my wife, wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, her hair in a messy bun, no makeup, holding a coffee mug with both hands. She looked comfortable, casual. She looked like home, not our home, this home. She stepped out onto the porch and took a deep breath, like she'd slept well. Then came a man, tall, relaxed, wearing old flip-flops and a worn-out hoodie. He stood behind her, wrapped one arm around her waist, and kissed her on the temple. Not passionately, not nervously. It was casual, familiar, automatic, like it was the 1,000th time he'd done it. And then, the kid, a little boy, maybe 4 years old, came barreling out the front door with a piece of toast in one hand and a toy in the other. He ran straight to her. She bent down instinctively, caught him mid-jump, and laughed. Laughed. She said his name. A name you use when you've used it 100 times before. She kissed his forehead, then straightened up and held his hand as they walked to the car. The man followed, opened the back door, buckled the boy into a car seat. My wife got into the passenger seat like it was her daily routine. And they drove off, probably to preschool, or Target, or pancakes, you know, family stuff. I sat there, completely still. My hands clenched so hard on the steering wheel I thought I might tear it off. There were no tears, no yelling, just silence. A roaring, all-consuming silence. My wife wasn't cheating on me. She was living an entire parallel life. One with a man who kissed her in the morning. One with a child I'd never met. One where she wore sweatpants and smiled without guilt. I waited until they came back. It was almost evening. The sun was low, the kind of warm light that makes even betrayal look golden. They pulled into the driveway. The little boy was asleep in the back seat. She carried him inside, head resting on her shoulder. He followed with a grocery bag, and something about the way they moved, synchronized, habitual, hit me like a truck. They didn't look like they were playing house. They looked like they'd been a house. For years, I took pictures, not because I wanted to, but because I knew, deep down, that if I didn't, I'd spend the rest of my life being gaslit by someone who could lie with a straight face to a toddler. When the lights turned off and the house settled into nighttime, I started the engine. I was driving away, from the version of her I thought I knew, and toward whatever the hell came next. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the living room, staring at my phone, scrolling through the photos I'd taken like I was reviewing evidence from someone else's life. Like this wasn't my wife, my daughter's mother, my marriage. I zoomed in on her face in one of the shots, smiling, mid-laugh, holding that little boy's hand, and I swear to God, she looked happy. Happier than I'd seen her in months. Years, maybe. That part cut deeper than anything else. The next morning, she came home, wheeled in her suitcase, took off her jacket, greeted our daughter like she always did. "Missed you, baby. Mommy's so tired. That was such a long flight." I watched her from the kitchen. She said it like clockwork, like it had been pre-recorded and set on loop, like the lie itself had become a part of her routine. I waited until our daughter was down for a nap. Then I walked into the living room and placed my phone on the coffee table between us. Unlocked, gallery open, pictures visible. She didn't even glance at it. Instead, she kept scrolling Instagram like nothing had happened. So I said it. "How long?" That got her attention. Her fingers froze on the screen. She looked up at me, not shocked, not scared, just calculating. "How long what? How long have you been living a second life behind my back?" There was a pause, and then she did the most insane thing imaginable. She laughed, not a belly laugh, not hysterical, just a short, bitter little exhale. "Oh, you've been tracking me?" No apology, no guilt, just instant deflection. I didn't answer. I just tapped the phone and flipped to the next photo, the one where she's holding the boy's hand. Her face changed, slightly. A flicker of something. Annoyance? Shame? I couldn't tell. "You followed me?" "I saw you," I said. "I saw everything." She rubbed her temples like I was giving her a headache. "You don't understand." "You have a 4-year-old son," I cut in. "You've had him longer than you've had me." Silence. "And you're married to me, while you're playing house with him and some guy in Ohio." She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, "I was going to tell you." And that's when I laughed, because of course she was. She was just waiting for the right time, right? Like maybe after the next family vacation, or when our daughter started school, or never. "Is he his?" I asked. "The boy?" She nodded. "You were with him before me?" Another nod. "And you never thought to mention, I don't know, the entire human you brought into this world?" She stood up, started pacing, arms crossed, eyes darting. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" She didn't answer. I kept going. "You married me. You had a daughter with me, all while playing mom to another kid in another town. How many birthdays did you miss here to make it to his?" She didn't look at me. And I realized I wasn't talking to my wife anymore. I was talking to a stranger who had memorized my routines, smiled on command, and spent half her life somewhere else. She finally sat down, hands in her lap, eyes low. "I never wanted to hurt you." Classic line, like it's some kind of moral shield, as if not wanting to hurt me somehow rewrites the fact that she absolutely did. I just couldn't choose. "So you chose both, and lied to us all." She nodded, and then she cried. Tears. Real ones. Probably for herself. I didn't yell, just stood up, walked to the door, and said, "I'm taking our daughter. You can figure out the rest." She looked panicked. "Wait, you're just going to leave?" "You already did. Over and over again. I'm just catching up." She didn't try to stop me that day. I picked up our daughter, packed 2 bags, hers and mine, and walked out the front door without looking back. No screaming, no fight. She just stood in the hallway, mouth slightly open, as if the words to fix this might suddenly arrive if she stayed still long enough. But there were no words. There was no version of "I'm sorry" that could untangle years of deception. I drove straight to my sister's place, told her something vague, "Need a reset." Just for a few days. She didn't push. She just hugged me, made a pot of coffee, and set up a folding crib in the guest room. Our daughter settled in like it was just a fun sleepover. She asked where Mommy was. I told her Mommy had another trip. It wasn't a lie. Not really. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I'd never called a lawyer before, never needed one. Never thought I'd be the guy in line at a courthouse asking about custody forms and separation guidelines. But there I was, sitting in a strip mall office that smelled like toner and stale coffee, telling a stranger about how my wife had another child, another man, and a whole other existence I'd never been invited into. Was she legally married to the other guy? The lawyer asked. I think not. Does he know about you? Not yet. He nodded slowly, like he'd seen worse, and somehow that didn't comfort me. By the end of that week, I had filed for divorce and temporary full custody. My lawyer told me, document everything, don't react, don't speak to her unless it's through text or legal channels. So I didn't. No calls, no in-person arguments, no begging her to explain, just silence. She, of course, tried. Texts started coming in by the dozen. Please talk to me. You're blowing this way out of proportion. We can work through this. You're the stable one. Don't let this blow up everything. It wasn't real, okay? It was just comfort. I love you. I always have. Can we at least talk for our daughter's sake? Every message made me feel sick, not because they were emotional, but because of how strategic they were. She wasn't sorry. She was just trying to pull the emergency brake on a train that had already derailed. She still hadn't admitted the whole truth, hadn't acknowledged the 4-year-old, the house, the man. She kept calling it a mistake, as if raising a child with another man behind my back was the same as leaving the stove on. I stayed at my sister's for 2 weeks, long enough to think, to breathe, to stop reflexively checking the flight tracker, to look at my daughter and realize I didn't need my wife to have a family. I just needed honesty. And that woman didn't have a drop of it left. It's been a year since I left. A year since my wife's entire circus act fell apart mid-performance. No encore, no applause, just ashes. Turns out the guy she was living with, his name is Daniel. They met when she first started flying regional routes. He was ground crew at a small airport outside Columbus. Harmless flirtation turned into weekend visits, then turned into a child. That little boy, Caleb, is 4 now. And yeah, the math checks out. She was with Daniel first, got pregnant. Then, instead of staying and building a life with him, she panicked. She didn't want to be that girl, the one who settled, who got tied down too early. So she moved back to our city, met me within a few months, and sold me the story. It was nothing serious. Never had kids. I want to start fresh. She left Daniel before she met me, but never really let go. She just kept both lives going like 2 browser tabs she refused to close. Monday to Thursday, she was in Ohio, reading bedtime stories to Caleb. Friday to Sunday, she was with me and our daughter, acting like Daniel didn't exist. And only occasionally, just enough to keep the uniform clean, she actually boarded a real plane. Just enough to keep the lie believable. None of us knew about each other. Not me, not Daniel, not even the kids. When I filed for divorce and took our daughter, I thought that would be the explosion. But the real blast came a few weeks later, when Daniel found out I existed. Apparently, she told him I was a family friend she used to live with, that our daughter was just someone else's kid she was helping raise. He believed her, until he got an envelope. From me, photos, flight records, marriage certificate. I didn't send it to be cruel. I sent it because he deserved the truth. His reaction? Cold, calculated, immediate. He kicked her out, changed the locks, filed for sole custody. From what I hear, he got it. Apparently the court didn't like that she forgot to mention she had a husband and another child in a different state. Go figure. Now she's the one couch surfing, trying to rebuild, posting vague Instagram stories with captions like, "Growth is painful," and "You can't heal in the same environment that broke you." Honey, you were the environment. As for me, still not dating, still not trusting perfume that smells like duty-free shops. But I'm better. Our daughter is thriving. She sleeps through the night now. She sings made-up songs about cats. She calls me her favorite person. And she's mine. Every now and then, I see a plane pass overhead and feel nothing. No resentment, no sadness, just a quiet kind of clarity. Some people aren't meant to land. They're just turbulence in human form. My ex-wife thought she could split her life into pieces and keep us all from noticing. But in the end, she didn't just lose 2 families. She lost the only version of herself that anyone ever truly believed in.